From tote bags to t-shirts, from mugs to mouse pads, and many things in between. All of them can be found right now at the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store. You can find them as part of the brand new Spring Spectacular Collection for 2021. All items designed by yours truly, Omar Moore. So take a look around. Lots to see. Lots of colors as well. There's surely something for you at the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store in the brand new Spring Spectacular Collection for 2021. More items are to be added. They are coming. So stay tuned for more and visit right now the-politicrat.myshopify.com, or you can go to thepoliticrat.com and scroll down to the online store on the homepage. Thank you very much for your support. Please patronize the store right now. Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Monday, February the 8th, 2021. On this episode of the Politicrat, female empowerment. Well, it was a conversation I was supposed to have, but it's my fault as to why I didn't have a guest on here with me to do that. So I thought, at least today, for a few minutes, I would talk about it. Female empowerment in politics in particular. And that is coming up next. So I was supposed to have on this podcast episode today Dr. Shun OK, and that's entirely my fault as to why that didn't happen. I completely mixed up the time and thought it was an hour later than it was, and I'm the one that scheduled it. So I want to first of all begin by apologizing publicly here to Dr. Shun OK, who, by the way, for those of you who are not aware, Dr. OK is the Conservative Party parliamentary candidate for Poplar and Limehouse in London from 2019. She also is a certified leadership coach and is an author, wife, mother, and that's as her Twitter handle describes it. But she's also the author as well of this great book, and it's a book that I highly recommend to people. It's called Supergirl to Superwoman, The Ultimate Guide to Female Leadership. And that's really what the bulk of what my conversation was going to be about today with her. And I have reached out to her, and I hope that we can have that conversation together, she and I, in the course of the next little while. Obviously, that didn't happen today, but that's all my fault. That's down to me. So I apologize to you, Doctor, okay, for mixing up the time. Completely my fault, and I take full responsibility for that. And I did apologize to her prior, more directly and privately, but I do want to do that here publicly because, I really think it's very important to, again, when you make mistakes or if you do something wrong, hold your hand up and be accountable for it, and don't sweep it under the rug, but hold your hand up, apologize, and then go on and do better. Because you've got to, the do better part must be attached to that too, and I will do better going forward with that, because that is something that, even though it's the first time it's happened on this podcast, it's not the point. The point is it happened. And I take full responsibility and apologize for it. So I apologize to you, Doctor. Okay, if we can have a conversation about female empowerment and about some of the things that you do let's have that conversation, please. And also talk about what's been going on in the United Kingdom over these last few days and weeks. It's been just absolutely, well, we need to talk about that too. So we'll have a conversation about that, I hope, in the near future. But I do want to talk about female empowerment, though. And just, I guess, from the male perspective that I have, and from the straight male perspective that I have, I do want to talk about that. And hopefully I'm not mansplaining. I really hope that I don't do that, because I don't think I do that. But you are listening to me right now, then you ultimately decide that as listeners, whether you think that that is what is coming across from yours truly. I did do an episode last year. It was in April of last year, or it could have been late March of 2020, but I think it was April of 2020, about female leadership, particularly as it pertains to politics and leadership in the world, and the importance of having women in leadership and having them in these valued positions, because we need more women in leadership positions. And there are many of them in a number of different countries, whether you're talking about the Prime Minister of Taiwan, whether you're talking about the German Chancellor, whether you're talking about a number of different leaders on the African continent, whether you're talking about the Prime Minister of New Zealand, whether you're talking about the Finnish Prime Minister of Finland, who, by the way, has an all-female cabinet. The last time I checked, the male Prime Minister of Sweden has a virtually all-female goodness gracious, I can't say the word, cabinet. Has a virtually all-female cabinet there. I know that the Finnish Prime Minister does an entirely female cabinet, or at least certainly the most prominent members are all female. And I talked about some of this almost a year ago, and I don't know. I guess the question that I want to ask is, how far have we progressed from just 2020, or have we not? Because there's no doubt that we are still in grave deficit in terms of the lack of women in political leadership in terms of the United States Senate, for example. There's only 22 female members of the United States Senate. As someone is making a whole racket out here, please excuse the noise. I do not have the luxury of a padded studio. Not yet, anyway. I'm working on having that happen, but oh, dearie me. That's not happening anytime soon. But we'll see what happens. You never know. But, we have, 23, 24 female senators? This is off the top of my head, by the way. I do not have the exact count, and I can go through all of them. Off the top of my head, I can do that, but I don't know how many that is. So let's start. More Capito. Let's start there. Duckworth, Warren, Stabenow, Lummins, Rosen, Feinstein, Hassan, Shaheen, Murray. Any more for any more? Klobuchar. Collins, Murkowski. How many is that so far? How many is that? Fisher. Blackburn. Ernst. Any more for any more? Gillibrand. I know there's a couple of others. And so I betrayed my promise to try to get all of them for you off the top of my head. And I'm not going to look them up. But I think that's about, how many did I just name? Roughly what, 15 perhaps? Out of the 24? I can do better. I can do better. Again, this is the thing that I know there's others. I know there are others. Oh, dearie me. I know there are others. Oh, my goodness. And how dare I not know? Cinema. Kirsten Cinema. So, I'm getting toward the 23 or 4. I'm getting there. You get the idea. I am getting to that area. So, look, I am absolutely of the mind, and I may come up with the other Tina Smith, also Minnesota. I'll get there. I'll get there with the rest of those. Also down in Mississippi, Hyde Smith. Now that is about 20 that I have named now. We're getting toward 20, and I think there's roughly 23, 24 or so. But that means if there's roughly 23 or 24, and I will attempt to name the other 3 or 4 in the next few minutes, if I can, off the top of my head, because I am not looking at any of that information. It's completely off the top of my head. Goodness gracious, aren't I so wonderful? Oh, dear. Yeah, do you notice all the self-deprecation that's not going on? Oh, dearie me. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is, you know what's pretty sad? I could probably name all 77 of the men. That's the sad thing. Oh, gosh, I just remembered Senator Mazie Hirono, Hawaii. So, I'm getting there. I'm getting there, people. I'm going to name all of them, all the female senators. I'm going to do it. Again, off the top of my head. But isn't it sad? I could probably, and is that because I'm male that I can do this? Or is it because I'm smart? Or is it because is it because there's 77 men in the U.S. Senate? And how come I could name them in my sleep? All 77 or 74, 76. However, I could name them in my sleep, but I confess now, beginning to struggle to come up with all the 23, 24, 26, however many female senators there are. That's really sad. That's troubling. Personally, I think for me. But I just think that's troubling, right? How come I'm struggling to name all 24 or 20? I don't even remember the exact number of female senators in the United States Senate. But I am telling you, I could name all, and I'm not going to do it here, wasting your valuable podcast time and mine. But how come I can do that easily, including the traitors who are not going to face any accountability? I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? Isn't that not the problem here? That we've got 77 or so, or 75 or so, male senators. It is just, again, we have an entrenchment issue, and there is an entrenchment of male political power. And I'm against an entrenchment of anything that ain't good, because that male political power has not been serving us well here in the United States, and maybe in the country that you are in. And if you are listening to this in another country at the moment, you will see, perhaps you may agree, that male political power and the entrenchment of it has not generally served us well. That's called the patriarchy. And it generally has not served us well. I mean, of course, there are always exceptions. Of course there are. There are male political leaders in the history of the world that have served fairly darn well, thank you very much. I think FDR did the world of good in a number of instances, not in his policies about interning Asian Americans, Japanese Americans who are Japanese. Let's call it what it is, Americans who are Japanese background, right? So no, there are things that even people like FDR have done that aren't good. Right? Executive orders to intern Americans who are Japanese. No. But you get what I'm saying is that there were programs that he did, the flip side, or at least not the flip side, the other part of the realm that he operated in, is that these programs, the New Deal programs, which were very important to American revival after what we had seen after the Depression era. And we're in that again now. And Joe Biden is at the top of this whole pyramid in terms of what kinds of things he can do within his executive power and remit to try to strike some kind of balance. I mean, you're not going to imbalance the system. I've talked about the system, and the people who pull that system's levers are going to keep those things in place for them. And I get it. Joe Biden's part of that. So is Vice President Harris. But what I am trying to say to you is that, look, overall, we can have a really good debate about whether male political leadership has really served the world well. And I would submit that it hasn't, in general. But that is not to obscure the conversation about female empowerment and female political leadership, which I spoke about on this podcast last year. And it's been far too long since then. It's about darn time that I did go back to this topic. And I've had guests on in the interim who have talked of these things, spoken about these very important, primarily very important subjects. They're very important because female leadership really is integral to this world's upliftment and survival. And I know that may sound canned to some of you listening, but I mean that. I mean every syllable of it. And I mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart. That is not something I say here for performance purposes at all. This is something I believe in. I believed in this for decades before I did any of this kind of line of work, podcast, or anything else. I believed this since I was a young lad, teenager. This is not something that I just stumbled upon. And I don't want cookies or medals or gold ribbons. I don't want any of those things. I'm just saying that these are things that we need to be talking about and strategizing around. You're seeing in the Republican Party, for example, an increased amount of women running, and usually white women overwhelmingly. And there's some black women we've seen over the last few years. Mia Love in Utah, who's now a former congresswoman. I think I don't watch anymore, but I think she's still on CNN. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch any of these networks. I've decided to just absolutely quit that. But that's another story. That's not important. It's a very selfish story. That's got nothing to do with the conversation. But Mia Love, who is the former congresswoman out of Utah, is in the Republican Party. I think she still is a Republican, maybe albeit more reluctantly. And I think a growing number of black women are quitting. I know Candace Owens isn't. I'm not going there because that's not what this is about either. I am talking about female empowerment in leadership. And Mia Love was a Republican, or maybe still is. Tara Setmeyer, who, as part of the Leadership Project, I think she was the Lincoln Project, excuse me. I did a podcast episode on the Lincoln Project last year. I think she's still part of that project. She's one of the co-founders, I believe. But I don't think she's in the Republican Party anymore. I think recently she had tweeted about her quitting that party. I know Jennifer Horn, also from the Lincoln Project, has not only quit the Republican Party, she's quit the Lincoln Project because there were all kinds of allegations, really heinous things that this guy allegedly did, who was part of, I'm not even going to mention his name, who maybe that's because, and that's probably because I've forgotten his name, not because I don't want to mention it, but I wouldn't mention it anyway, because I think, although, he's a scumbucket in my view, to be nice to him. In fact, I shouldn't be nice to him at all. Why? And I know it's alleged, but you've had about a goodness knows how many men actually say that this guy was a predator to them and he was being disgusting to them. And I don't care whether it's a woman, a man, or any other person. That is not allowed. We're not having it. Enough. We need to end this kind of disgusting behavior. All kinds of it that is harmful to people, that is toxic, that's part of this patriarchy that values the feelings of the people who abuse rather than the feelings of those who are receiving the abuse. That's what HR is, that's what human resources is. It supports the abuser. And so when you go into your job, well, not now because you're not in an office, presumably, but when you go to your job and you say, hey, look, this scumbucket man over here sexually harassed me or threatened me or whatever, and I need you to really look into this. And then you go to your HR person and say that to them. And they're the ones that say, come to us in confidence. We will take your complaint seriously. And then you find within a day or two that you've been transferred out of the division you worked in. Or better yet, you've been fired from your job. Better yet. Or better yet, the guy that you're complaining about, the man in quotes that you've been complaining about, has been actually given a promotion. That happens all the time in the U.S. military. But the point is that Jennifer Horn had quit the Lincoln Project, and these are all people who are leaders now. Tara Settenmeyer, Jennifer Horn, they're not political leaders. They're not in Congress or anything, but they have been around politics a lot. They've been parts of campaigns. They've organized and strategized for political campaigners and candidates. So they are very much in it on that level. I am talking specifically about leadership as a senator, as a House member, or as a prime minister, or as a president, that kind of thing. But they could, I'm sure they would no doubt do very well. They would no doubt would look. And there are some exceptions, as I think I've cited. I mean, I spoke with Professor Ruth Ben-Ghiat about this. I believe the second time or the first time around when she was so kind to be a guest on this podcast, and she has written a great book called Strong Men: Mussolini to the Present, which I highly recommend for you to read. And we had the conversation about this, this predominance of men who are fascist leaders. And can we find any in history who were female? And there's always one or two exceptions. But generally speaking, no, this isn't a male thing. But female empowerment is so very important. We need to have more of it. We really do. And I'm going to, when I come back, talk a bit more specifically about what I think we should be doing to make that happen.
EEOC, due to Judge Thomas. When I informed him that I was leaving in July, I recall that his response was that now I would no longer have an excuse for not going out with him. I told him that I still preferred not to do so. At some time after that meeting, he asked if he could take me to dinner at the end of the term. When I declined, he assured me that the dinner was a professional courtesy only and not a social invitation. I reluctantly agreed to accept that invitation.
Who was that? The voice you just heard, the female voice you heard. Who was that? Let me know. Or just take a guess. Who was that? And by the way, today's book recommendation is from Mr. Bryan Stevenson. He is the executive director of the EJI, Equal Justice Institute, I believe, or initiative, whichever one it is. He wrote the book Just Mercy, a story of justice and redemption. And it is the Equal Justice Initiative that he heads. He founded that particular initiative, and he wrote this really magnificent book, Just Mercy. It's a story of justice and redemption. Bryan Stevenson is his name, the author. And Bryan spelled Bryan, Stevenson, Stevenson, Bryan Stevenson, really one of the great American heroes, quite frankly, someone who has continued to fight on behalf of those who are unable to fight for themselves because the system oppresses them and puts them in these positions of not just incarceration, but really enslavement. And the film Just Mercy, if that title sounds familiar, is because the book itself was adapted into a film for the year of 2019, Just Mercy. I can't believe it's been 2 years since that movie, over a year now since that movie came out. And that's exactly right. I remember watching that in maybe it was early 2020, late 2019, actually probably late 2019. It was with Michael B. Jordan playing the role of Bryan Stevenson, and Jamie Foxx, who was superb in the film in the supporting role as Walter D. Based on a true story, of course, all of this, and you've got to read that book, Just Mercy. Tsai Ing-wen, Taiwan. She's the first female president of Taiwan, by the way. Nicola Sturgeon, the Scottish First Minister, and she is the head of the Scottish National Party, the SNP, as they are more commonly known. Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand. She is the first female Prime Minister of New Zealand, to the best of my memory. I could be wrong there, though. So I don't want to get that wrong. I could have got it wrong, but I don't know that I have. But there you go, I apologize for getting it wrong, if I did. Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, who, by the way, is on her last few months of that position as the leader of Germany. She is going to be leaving politics, at least that part of the politics. She may be still part of the political party that she's in, and I forget the name of that, but it's a center-right party in Germany. But she won't be the chancellor after, I think, September of this year. So she is, or after August, she is absolutely on her way out of that position. And it's a shame, because that's going to be an important. She's done a great deal to try to hold a very tenuous coalition together in Europe. So I just want to mention her, and I can mention all of the other people, and I'd be here all day. Who are world leaders? There are a few of them. I won't say I wouldn't be here all day. I'd be here for another maybe half hour or less. Sanna Marin is one of them. She is the president of Finland, and I think she's also the youngest leader on the planet, male or female. She's the youngest leader. Not that I should have brought up age. Bad, naughty. But I do think that it's just perspective, that you've got some really quality leaders out here who are female. And I guess the juxtaposition, or not the juxtaposition, but the thing that I want to get to, and I can name some female governors here in the U.S., and there still aren't enough of them either. As I said last time, I think there's only a dozen female governors in the United States. And by the way, none of them are black. So can we start with that? We don't have a black female governor in the United States. And that is despicable. Stacey Abrams would have been the first one just 2 years plus ago. Just over 2 years ago, had it not been for the vote stealer in chief, Brian Kemp. And by the way, Brad Raffensperger didn't do himself any favors either. Everybody fawns over him these days. But Stacey Abrams would have been the first female black governor. And by the way, black female governor. And by the way, she probably still will be in 2 years' time, because I think she's going, in a year or so's time, she's going to run. There's no secret of that. That's an open secret now. And we'll find the confirmation of that, I guess, in the next few months, about whether Stacey Abrams will indeed run for Georgia governor, but I think it's very clear that she will. But there are only about a dozen or 15 or so guys. I said this almost a year ago when I did this podcast episode on this. There is only about 15 female governors in the country right now, in the U.S. I can name 5 of them right now. I can name probably all of them right now. Kate Brown in Oregon. I can name Kim Reynolds in Iowa. I could name Kay Ivey. She's on her way out, serving out her last, she may have actually finished serving her term out in Alabama. I think she may have actually served out her term, so she's really not on the list anymore. The governor oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. This is embarrassing, isn't it? In New Mexico, Michelle Lujan Grisham, who was considered for a position, I think, in Joe Biden's administration, President Biden's administration. I think she would have been very good at Health and Human Services. She didn't get that position. Javier Becerra did. But Michelle Lujan Grisham in New Mexico, the governor, oh my Lord, this is so bad that I'm drawing a blank myself. See? That's really not good. Again, that's not good that I can't name even the 15 or 12 of them. And I only got to name, 4, 5? That's not cool at all. Not cool. But isn't that sick? I could name the 30 plus male governors. Gina Raimondo was the governor of Rhode Island. She's no longer, because, of course, she's now got a position in she's had the confirmation hearings for a position in President Biden's administration. So she's no longer governor. She was a governor. Wow, it's really, anyway, that's not good. But anyway, again, this is not good to be so self-indulgent about whether I can name these governors or not. I wonder if you can. Can you name all the governors? Don't look it up. Can you right now, off the top of your head, name all the female governors in the United States? Can you name all the female leaders in your country? If you listen to this in a different country, can you name the female leaders in your government, in the cabinet? Can you name them all? Can you name them in Joe Biden's cabinet? I can name a good few of them. Can you name your senator? Can you name your female governor? You know what I mean? It's a lot of people can't, and I'm struggling with naming all the women who are governors in the U.S. There are not many of them, but I should be able to name those. And the senators, I think I got nearly all of the female senators. U.S. senators, that is. I think I named them all. We did have one in Kamala Harris. She's now vice president. There are again, it shows you where we are. This is 2021. But my goal here, or my recommendation, is not only that we run more women for these positions, and we are running them, that women are running them, are running for office in all of these positions, whether it's state, local, in Senate as well, but on a local level, very important. We're seeing so many women running, and it's really heartening. And we're seeing more women elected overall, particularly here in the United States, than we have in many, many years, since 1920. When women in the United States, white women, let me be specific, in the United States won the right to vote. By the way, black women were involved in that fight very, very much so, as much as white women were. And black women were tossed aside by their white colleagues, to say the least, and then had to fight on for 45 more years before winning the right to vote. And they paid for it in blood, too. Just ask Amelia Boynton, the late, great Amelia Boynton, who was beaten on that bridge. She doesn't get talked about. She suffered on that bridge, too. You know? Best as far as I know. I know that Ava DuVernay chronicles this in Selma, a film I recommend to you very highly to watch. There are great women in leadership. And some of them are in politics, some of them aren't. Right? We've had great women from time immemorial, particularly great black women in leadership, and in the African continent, as well. In ancient Africa, Ya Asantewaa, one of the great warrior leaders on the African continent. A general, a majestic warrior. She led men into battle, and some women too. She fought in these battles. I mean, you have to understand. She fought in these battles against the Spanish, I believe. But there is a bloodline of great women, particularly black women, leaders forever. I can name Shirley. See, I have no problem calling roll. Come on. I can talk about Maxine Waters, Barbara Jordan, Shirley Chisholm, Harriet Tubman, a great leader. You want to talk about a warrior, Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman. Sojourner Truth, part of that suffrage movement. I mean, I have no problem mentioning every name. I can tell you those names chapter and verse. Look at Eleanor Roosevelt, for example. She had a lot of sway in that Roosevelt administration. I think the most influential first lady you'll ever find in the history of American first ladies. We've had some duds. The one that was just in the last 4 years. But we've also had some really great ones. Eleanor Roosevelt was probably the greatest. Then you had Michelle Obama, of course, as well. I would put a second to her. Not too far distant, but certainly a second. But Eleanor Roosevelt was absolutely the epitome of leader. That's some great leadership she had. What a figure she was, inspirational figure. And this is what I'm talking about. Now, you don't have to be the next Eleanor Roosevelt or the next Michelle Obama, but you have to be you. And my prescription is to run. Women must continue to run, and they're doing that. But I also think they should continue that. I also think women should continue to run on the local level and build from there. And we need to have men also pushing those candidates. We need to have women pushing those candidates. We need to have people in general pushing those candidates. And we need more of that. We need that strategy, and it needs to be fulsome. It needs to be plentiful. It needs to be robust, because it won't work any other way. And what we need to do is we need to populate, I think, political organizations, the DNC, or even somewhere more grassroots than that, with a majority of women, female leaders, female members, and then build a base of organization and coalitions with predominantly female groups. And then let's start pushing and strategizing alongside them, those groups. And let's talk about continuing to promote and push female leadership from all angles. I mean, it's here. It's not like it needs to be pushed. It needs to be front and center and centered. We need to have a system even bigger than that, rather, to center women and to center female leadership. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, right? I mean, yes, we can talk about running women on the local level. They're doing that. We can talk about running women on the state level. Women are doing that. We can talk about having women run on the federal level, the national level. That's being done. It's been being done. It's been being done forever. But we need to have an infrastructure. What we need is to change the infrastructure. We need to move away and dismantle the patriarchy. That's what we need to get rid of. I mean, that's going to take a lot longer, obviously, but it's something that we need to keep chipping away at. And it's not going to be dismantled overnight. We need to have an infrastructure, though, and there are many female organizations, women's organizations, who are doing things like this. So what I'm saying is not revolutionary or new, but it is an idea that I'm sure has been propounded by many and is being implemented by many. This is my idea, or at least my encapsulation of what is probably going on everywhere, but this is my approach. This is my opinion about it. And I think that we've got to have, and more of it, because I know we need to have more solid infrastructures supported by women, by men as well, but particularly by women. And we need to contribute to those as men. We don't really need to do the fronting and supporting so much. And I just mentioned that word earlier, supporting. But we need to champion and amplify female voices as well. And the organizations. And when I'm talking female, I'm not talking, because some people hear the word female and they think white. And I am saying female and I'm thinking black, brown, Asian, white. I'm thinking of all of these groups, right? It's not just one group. It's not just white, female. It's everybody. And I mentioned black women particularly because we have some really good, solid black women in political power, in leadership right now in the House of Representatives. You've got Auntie Maxine Waters. She's the head of the financial committee in the House of Representatives. Also, you are now going to have Marcia Fudge, who's been a veteran of politics in the House. She is going to become the Housing and Urban Development Secretary. HUD. That's the old job that Ben Carson had. This is going to be a major step up. You're going to see Congresswoman Fudge, soon to be, if she may have been sworn in already, actually, as the brand new leader of the Housing and Urban Development. She's the HUD secretary. I think she's already been sworn in. And so there's leadership, right? There's other black women in leadership. Outside of government, there's people who are activists, black women activists, like Tamika Mallory. What an incredible human being she is. I can sing the praises of so many others. I've talked about them. I've talked to them. Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver. I look forward to having another conversation with her here on this podcast. We had one, I believe it was last October or November. Might have been last October, could have been last September. It's one of those 2 or 3. I guarantee it's October or September of last year. You can look back and search the episodes. September or October of last year, 2020. And we had a conversation about black women in leadership. We need a continuing push for black women in leadership, for brown women in leadership. We need to have this. We need to. It's happening in the House more than it is in the Senate. The old white boys club. That's what that is. The old boys network is the old white boys network. It's not the old boys nothing. Yeah, there's some. I mean, how many black men are there in the U.S. Senate? 3? Warnock, Booker, Scott. Those are the only 3. Are there any other black male U.S. senators right now in 2021? in the United States Senate. I think those are the only three. Yeah, I don't think there's a fourth one. If there is, you can email me. You can get in touch with the Politicrat at politicratpod@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at the popcorn REEL. But I'm saying to you that we need to have stronger support of these organizations that are doing the right thing, because there might be some female organizations, there might be some women's organizations who you and I might find aren't doing the right thing, right? They're only catering to one group of women, i.e. white women. But they're not really catering to women, period. Women as a whole gender, meaning women, meaning black women, brown women, native women, Asian women. They're only catering to white women. And if you find that that's an organization that is if you know of organizations that are doing that, and you're in with those organizations, or even if you're not, you need to get on the horn to these folks and tell them, I'm not going to support your organization if you're only going to be dealing with women who actually have some kind of representation. And that's not to say that you can't support those organizations, but it's, it goes beyond the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action, because, white women actually are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. They really are. But don't tell anybody that. Don't tell anybody I told you that. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't support these organizations. I amend that slightly. I'm saying that if that is the only thing that organization is doing, you should really be looking at other organizations that actually are encompassing other groups or all groups, black women. That why do you think we have to say black women? Or why do you think we have to have black organizations? Because we have a racist, entrenched whiteness, system of whiteness that promotes whiteness as the only thing that counts and promotes it as a systemic reality and of dominance and a societal one. And where's the promotion of black figures, of black women, of black people? Where is that in that structure? So yeah, we have the NAACP Image Awards. So those people, the dunderheads, the racists who say, why do you have to call it Black History Month? Oh, why do you say Black Lives Matter? Don't all lives matter? Well, ideally, they would. But all lives do not matter until and unless black lives also matter. And while I know black lives matter, and while you know that black lives matter, there are people out here who are being murdered, who are black. So we're going to say something about that, and we're going to advocate to do something about it. And it's not just in terms of shootings that are happening. It's these police who are murdering people. Us. Where white people would not be murdered in those very same situations. And there's always one or two exceptions. And people love to search for the exception. Oh, well, no, here's one. Here's a white woman over here that got shot in Minnesota. Like that is going to be the thing that stops us in our tracks. No, that is horrible too. And that's heinous as well. And there was actually, I think they got a modicum of justice out of that because they actually got the guy who did it, a Senegalese or Sudanese American police officer, black man, right? He got jail time, 10 years for that, I'm told. Well, he probably will serve all 10. But, let that be someone who's black, who got killed by the very same officer. Let's see how much jail time he does then. Come on, folks. You know the drill here. Don't even play. Don't even try it. Don't even try it. Come on now. You're exposing yourself. Literally. Don't even try to insult us like this. Because I think we know a little bit better than that. Now, the whole point is, as I drift off a little bit here to different realms, I want to just say that we need to continue to back and promote and support organizations that are female organizations that are really doing good things. Because there are organizations that you may find that are black that may not be doing the right kind of thing. And the same applies to that. You need to tell them to buck up their ideas or you're out. Or better yet, you can also form your own organization. As I keep saying, we have agendas that we must put forth. And one of them is about getting more women into the political arena and the business arena. There's plenty of women who are entrepreneurs. Plenty of them. Black women, white women, Asian, plenty. But they're not getting the kinds, I think, of exposure and support that they must get. Now, I know that the administration we have now, this brand new administration, is going to be doing something about that to a degree. But it can't just be President Biden and Vice President Harris. It has to be all of us in our own way to promote these businesses. And you know how you do that? Promote businesses and promote female leaders is if they're tweeting something, make sure you retweet it. If, come on, follow these accounts. Follow the women who are leading on Twitter or wherever. Follow these leaders. Follow them, tweet them, support them, send them your support, send them your love, send them your best wishes is what I mean when I say send them your love, right? Support them. And when they're wrong, when you think they're wrong, critique them. I do that all the time with House Speaker Pelosi here in the U.S. And I've praised her when she's done the right thing. That's what we should do with anybody, with men too. If they're doing the right thing, you praise them. If they're not, you make sure you let them know. I think we're often too quick to jump to praise people when they've done one thing correct, but maybe 70% of the time they've done the wrong thing. It's like we can't wait to praise them for the one thing that they did. Or we can't wait to criticize them as well. But the point is they should be criticized. And it's not a great 2021, as a rejoinder to someone on Twitter who said this. If you've got, we've got the trial of Trump tomorrow and this happened. No, that's not, yes, he should have been gone and he should have been impeached and convicted. He should have been convicted over a year ago, right? Is it really a good 2021 if we're jumping up and down on Twitter talking about he's on trial? Yeah, he's on trial. He should be. He shouldn't even be on trial in the first place because on February 5th, 2020, he should have been convicted. So how great a 2021 is it when you've also got that? And you've got, right now, 500,000 plus people dead of coronavirus in the U.S. How great a 2021 is it? Huh? Can you answer that for me, dear listener? How great a 2021 is it when you've still got 90+% of the population without a vaccination shot and all the rich have been taken care of nice and smoothly? I've got nothing against people being taken care of for the benefit of their health. But when it's people who are under the age of 65 and they have people who are well connected, I don't like the idea of that. Unless, of course, they are people in public health, if they are people on the front lines, if they are obviously Vice President Harris, people obviously. But I'm talking about the everyday person. That's really unseemly. It's like the PPP stuff. That's really unseemly. It's like the PPP stuff the first time around when all of those billionaire companies got money ahead of the mom and pop stores. That was deliberate. Steve Mnuchin, I see you. So-called foreclosure king of California, and you are. And it's a real shame that Attorney General Kamala Harris at the time did not prosecute you because she should have done. I'm sure there were reasons, but still, But anyway, this is the thing. We need more women in leadership, and there are many there already on their own merits. I can go and talk about Ayanna Pressley and Ilhan Omar, all congresswomen, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Pressley, Congresswoman AOC, Congresswoman Cori Bush, who I really am a big fan of. Cori Bush, Representative Cori Bush. Whether it's Representative Maxine Waters, whether it's Representative Karen Bass, Representative Barbara Lee, either one of those two last names I read out should have been the United States Senator in California, Gavin Newsom, governor. You should have picked one of those two. they would have done an excellent job. They've been in Congress forever. You should have put one of the two of them in the U.S. Senate seat. But I know it's a political favor you're doing for your buddy, Alex Padilla. But anyway, I want to say that's what's got to happen. We've got to have continued support for women who are running for office. We have to lend our apparatus, our resources, our time, our voices to continuing to push this. Because we all know that when women lead as they do, the world is a better and safer place, inevitably, almost always true. You know, not with Margaret Thatcher, and with maybe a couple of others that I could name. But, some people would say with Aung San Suu Kyi as well now, as we see what's going on in Myanmar. But even before that, when she backed the military, as they were killing off, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. I mean, my God, the persecution of the Rohingya. Can we go? And that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother episode I should get into. So, we've seen that too. So there are some female leaders who aren't the best, even though we know that Aung San Suu Kyi had been for a long time praised and idealized by a lot of world leaders. But we see her reputation, she's tarnished it over the last few years because of her support of the military, murdering, genociding Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. We can't. So there are, again, I'm not saying that, it's perfect. By any stretch, I'm not. I acknowledge that there are real problems structurally that I think that we have to look at. I think these problems do become ones of grave inquiry and investigation, and we need to be looking at those. So I'm not here saying that it's all fine and dandy in all occasions, but I am saying that we've got to support female leadership and empowerment. It's a conversation I want to have rather than this monologue, but this is considered a starter. And I do hope, again, to have Dr. Shion Oke on so we can talk about this some more. And certainly I will be broaching this subject with others in the not too distant future as well. So thank you very much indeed for your time today. I apologize for not having Dr. Oke on. That's my fault. Didn't get the time right. I was under this strenuous belief that it was an hour later than it was, and I take full responsibility and I apologize. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.